Welcome back, my friends. So today we've got a little bit of a strange one, as if you followed me for a while, you know I don't really review AtGames products any longer. And the ones I did, I always had issues with. But today it is my privilege. I'm going to call it that because I get to inform you guys. So that's a good thing. But a friend of mine purchased this unit specifically for use with the Legends Ultimate Arcade machine. So I've captured a little bit of footage of this unit being used on that arcade machine because it's supposed to just pair with it. You use the arcade controls, all that good stuff. So a lot of people who've bought that machine will possibly be looking at this to pair it with it because this does have a handful of games that are not on that arcade machine. And there's some issues. So I figured since I did take a look at that, got a little bit of footage, and I have this in my possession for some testing purposes, we might as well get a video out of it, take a look, see what games are included, how does everything play, what are the options, that kind of thing. But we're going to get into the testing as well with the arcade machine in a moment. But here's the box. This thing does retail for $50 at Sam's Club right now. I believe it's supposed to be $60, but Sam's Club, they're always rolling back them prices. And it's only available there right now. It's supposed to be available at other places later. But just like the Ultimate Arcade Machine, whatever it's called, this is a special edition. So this comes with additional games, 10 additional games. You see 100 built in? This actually has 110. So I'm assuming, like how the arcade machine being sold elsewhere doesn't come with the Blast unit, that this, when it's sold elsewhere, it's not going to have those 10 extra games. I have no clue what the 10 extra games are. I highly doubt this is the list of 10 extra games. I mean, I would imagine it would be on there because already on the box you have Aladdin and Lion King. So shit, I don't know, man. But here we go. Let's just get into this thing. The box isn't bad. It feels like, oh my God, like light, dude. Like I'm holding a freaking box of tissues or something. This thing is a light ass box. It doesn't look too bad. Little nicer look to it than their previous boxes. There you go. A little sample size of the games that are included. There's some neat stuff here. From looking at the arcade machine, this does have a handful of stuff that's not on that, like I already said, but this does include like some Capcom titles. So I think that's going to be one of the big reasons people want to grab this to pair it with that machine. But let's just go ahead and open it up. So here we go. We have the little unit. This thing weighs like nothing. Power button, reset button, 2 ports, 9-pin ports for Sega Genesis controllers. Comes with 2 Sega-style controllers with it, HDMI, micro USB for power, and then an SD card slot to update the firmware and probably to add your own games at some point. Here's the controller. I did measure the cable because I didn't see any specific information. It was about 5 feet long. Very mushy. Weighs about an ounce. It really weighs like nothing. Very mushy. Not the worst controller I've ever felt as far as Sega style. These are definitely better than their previous versions, but there you go. You do get this fairly standard. Actually, these things come with a lot of like Raspberry Pi kits. I always recognize that little swoosh right there. But what is this? 5-volt, 1 amp micro USB power supply. So you get that. I'd asked because I didn't see an HDMI cable in here, and I was told no. When it was originally open, there's no HDMI cable. It just doesn't come with one. They said, screw that noise. You ain't getting one. Here's the manual. Just goes over some basics, how things work, but we're going to take a look at that in a second. The list of games on the back. Now, I know the one question some people who actually are into these things is going to ask, since this comes with wired controllers, which is kind of a good thing because their wireless controllers always sucked ass. But people, I know they're going to be curious. Does this work? Or do wireless controllers work with this since it has 9-pin controller ports? And sadly, the freaking answer is no. I have tested the 8BitDo M30 2.4 gigahertz. Not working. Doesn't seem like it powers the adapters is what the problem is. And I've also tried Retrobit's brand new Sega controllers. They're 2.4 gigahertz with the 9-pin, the Sega Genesis port adapter. Tried it with that. I did see the light kind of light up on the adapter, but it wouldn't, you would hold the sync button down, that wouldn't flash. It was very dim. So these adapters, they're just not getting the power through this port in order for it to work. I'm not sure if there's something else we can do, but out of the box, with the included power supply and how this thing works, it's just not working with those wireless controllers. So let's plug this thing in, take a look at the selection, test some stuff out, and then talk about pairing it with the Ultimate Arcade, the Legends Ultimate Arcade. So let's do it. Okay guys, we're powered on. Let's take a look at what this thing has to offer. So we have some options on the side. We can cycle through everything with the D-pad, so that's good. We don't have to use the buttons to go up and down, left and right, other than the page through the selection of games, which is okay, I guess. Same thing with the arcade machine, works identical. But you have my favorites, if you added games to your favorites, recently played, games that you recently played, featured games. Not sure why these are featured. I mean, there's some good games here, so maybe that's why they're the best games on here. I don't know. But interestingly, you will see some Bandai Namco stuff here. So obviously these were all licensed prior to their little lawsuit stuff going on. But stay tuned because I do have an update with the AtGames Bandai Namco lawsuit. Some very interesting stuff. Keep an eye out for that. We will be doing a video pretty soon. All games listed here. So this is going to include all your arcade and console. If you want to just go to arcade, you have that option. Console games, you have them all separated as well. A settings menu that has different bezels you could select. Okay, we got to press Y to go to the next page. There we go. So there's that. Backup to SD card, backup your save states to the SD card. That's interesting. Restore from SD card, delete all save states on the console. So you got some save state management. Interesting. Background music off and on. Overdrive, what the hell is overdrive? I don't know what that option is. Okay, so I had to Google what this overdrive mode is because I haven't used these guys' systems in ages, so I was not aware. But essentially what it's for is if a game has multiple sprites on screen and it flickers, overdrive mode will reduce the flickering. Kind of neat little option there. But let's go ahead and scroll through the game list, go through arcade and then the console games. I'm not going to name anything. You guys just take a look. There is some interesting stuff here. I'm not sure how these guys continue to get all these crazy licenses. To be honest with you, they have stuff from Acclaim, Bandai Namco, Capcom, ColecoVision, Data East, Disney, Jaleco, Lucasfilms, the Tetris license, and they have a bunch of stuff from Pico Interactive. It's pretty crazy to see, man, but we're going to jump into a couple of these things in a moment. The Disney stuff, pretty interesting. You get that Lion King and Aladdin. Those two franchises, man, they've licensed the hell out of that all over the place to get those games re-released. You also have interesting Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I'm pretty sure it's the Sega Genesis version though, which for me, prefer the Super Nintendo one. But let's jump into a couple things real quick, see how it performs. Okay, so I wanted to test out Super Street Fighter 2 for a couple reasons. I want to see how the visuals look, see how the controller, the included controller feels, and to showcase that I can do the moves with this controller. It is a mushy ass controller. It's not the worst I've ever used, but it's definitely cheap for sure. But I'm having no problem performing moves in Street Fighter. Everything is working for me. Input latency, I'm not really feeling anything crazy. I could definitely see they've upped their game a bit with their emulation on these devices. And you guys know me, man. I just don't care for AtGames, but I have to be honest with what I'm seeing here. With the 720p visuals, we're not getting the sharpest output ever. It does seem like there's a little bit of smoothing going on here, but I think a lot of people won't mind. Overall, it doesn't look bad. So a lot of the games, you can rewind. There's a rewind feature. You hold back and start and it rewinds. But it seems like a lot of the arcade games doesn't allow you to do that. But if you either press the menu button on the console or you press up and start, you got to remember these hotkeys. You can go into the menu option. From what I understand, older versions of these consoles, you had to press the menu button until they like updated the firmware. So it's good. This one, you don't have to do that. You just have to memorize these combinations. So you have save states, quit game, and scan lines, or resume game as well. Let's take a look at what scan lines look like. As I figured, darkens it up a little bit. Probably not going to translate extremely well to YouTube, but they're scan lines. They're there if you care about it. So let's check out a console game real quick. So I tested out a handful of console games, and I'm noticing on this side of things, the emulation is not quite as good as the arcade side. We're seeing a lot more with shimmering, the sounds are not 100%. Playing a lot of the Sega games, which a lot of the console stuff on here are Sega games. AtGames has always struggled with getting Sega games running properly. And yes, on this unit, it does seem like the effort is a lot better than previous units from, a few years ago, but I still see, or hear anyway, that the sounds are not 100%, the tone, the pitch, that kind of thing. Even with games that are not Sega games or Sega Genesis games, the sounds are not 100%. Input latency, the way the controls work, just fine with the included controller. Not really noticing any issues with that. Some people will be fine with the way this thing performs. Some people won't. Just have to point these things out. You guys know I'm not a fan of AtGames, but with this chance that I had, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts. And the biggest thing was I wanted to talk about the Legends Ultimate Arcade because that's how this video came about. Using this device with that system, with that arcade machine. Now, my little bit of time that I got to play it, I'm like, wow, this is kind of neat. The Legends Ultimate Arcade machine, way better than an arcade 1-up as far as size, a full-size arcade. It seems like it's got some potential. It's a neat device, but they do advertise this feature of taking their previous systems, specific ones anyway, their more recently released stuff, and their blast units, and just plugging them in to the arcade machine and using the included controls. So a lot of people will be interested in using this Legends Flashback Deluxe to get some of those extra games like the Capcom games that are not included on the arcade machine to be able to play them that way. And as you can see, there's tons of issues with the controls. The way it interfaces, there's something wrong here. You get ghost inputs. Sometimes the buttons don't register at all. Diagonals don't register. It's just crazy. In the system itself, on the arcade machine, there is a stick sensitivity feature, and I'm not sure if that will actually function when you plug in another console, but I tested it anyway, and it's the same thing. If I do 4-way or the 8-way sensitivity, I can very rarely perform moves in Street Fighter, but with the crappy included controller, I can. So that is strange. The lag, there's like a lot of latency using the included arcade stick with this Legends Flashback console. It's unplayable. It defeats the purpose of this feature for this device. I did get a chance to try out some of the other dongles. I don't own any of them, so I know this machine comes with one if you buy it from Sam's Club. So I did get to test that out, plus one of the other older ones, and they function just fine. There was no issues with the controls, with the stick or anything. Wasn't getting any ghost input. So there's something wrong where their flagship console, the Flashback Deluxe, does not work with this machine, even though they advertise it too. Maybe they'll fix it, I don't know, but I wanted to give people a heads up on those issues that were brought to my attention, and I got to test out myself. There you guys go. Really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me today for this like little one-off. Like, I didn't think I would be doing a video like this. Holy crap. But there you go. Had to share with you guys. Really do appreciate you hanging out with me. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-byes, and boom. Bye!